What's going? Oh shit! What's up, everybody? Breaking MMA coming to you from UFC Baku. I just finished up the card, or the card just finished up not too long ago, and I wanted to give my reaction to it. Starting with the main event, Jamal Hill versus Khalil Rountree. Now, as much as I was saying that Jamal Hill is overrated, taking off the fanboy hat, the fanboy shirt, um, Khalil is also very overrated. There was a lot of holes that I was looking at in his game that was telling me that he wasn't gonna be a championship level fighter. At least he's not right now, right? Um, and I think that if he fights anybody above him in the rankings, that he probably loses to them, right? I think his best choice right now would be to defend his ranking versus anybody else. But so the things in his game that I didn't like seeing was he was he was very much um striking outside of his range. And I mean, like, he was fully committed to throwing like certain like really wide powerful strikes, very telegraphed strikes from beyond his range, right? And I get um some of his style is dependent on him blitzing into the pocket or into range and then landing shots. But there was a lot of opportunities where I feel like somebody that has the tools like Jamal Hill, but obviously is smarter than Jamal Hill, could have capitalized on, right? Catching him, um, like trying to step in after the punch is thrown. But it is what it is. This was a clear 50-45 from from Rountree. My bad. I don't know if y'all heard that in the background, but that's the Marvel's home screen, Marvel Rivals home screen. But um, yeah, man, it's good to see Khalil Rountree get a win, and to all the people that were saying everybody's underrating Jamal Hill, nobody was, nobody was, because he was overrated this whole time, right? Like him being a champ, good for him. It was a very favorable matchup for him, right? In a very favorable circumstance, because technically, Jan Blachowicz versus Ankalaev was supposed to be for the title, but that ended up in a draw. And then he got to fight Glover for the title, and then he managed to get the winner of Glover, and then his performances versus Yuri and Alex, it was very telling of what was to come for Jamal Hill. Um, he was struggling a lot in the fight, dealing with the pain from Khalil Rountree's leg kicks. Though they were doing a lot of damage, and like in the first round, they were both kind of just having a leg kick battle, right? Jamal Hill was landing more, but Roundtree was landing very hard, very heavy, with his leg kicks, and they obviously had more of an effect throughout the fight as he landed even more of them. Um, it was very scary watching this fight for Khalil, because he was very hittable in a lot of moments, and Jamal, as much as I like don't really fuck with him, he has very fast and powerful hands. I can admit that, but his footwork is horrendous, bro. Like, his stance bothers me watching him. It I don't know if anybody's ever told him that, but his footwork is horrible. It impedes on his movement and his ability to get in and out of strikes. His posture is so awkward. He's such an unorthodox fighter that it only makes sense that he was gonna lose to someone more technical, more, I guess, more basic, like somebody like Khalil. And Jamal took a lot of heavy shots, so I gotta applaud him for his durability at the very least, and his grit at the very least, to make it through all 5 rounds and to get back up after getting dropped. But you know, this really, like, some of them shots were really hard, very hard, and it really attests to the power of Alex Pereira. I really didn't want to bring it up, but you got to bring it up now. You got to bring it up. You know, both of them being able to, well, Khalil more so being able to survive the shots from Alex Pereira, and Khalil hitting Jamal as hard as he could and not really having much of an effect. That's very. Oh, I just hit my mic. That's very telling of Alex Pereira, but he is pretty much irrelevant to this fight night. um, Another thing that I wanted to mention. Actually, was there anything else? I feel like there was something I wanted to add. I think Jamal Hill should change his camp. I don't know why his coaches put him under the belief. Oh my god. Fucking old heads, bro. Always blasting their old ass music. If I get copyrighted for just that one little clip, I'll be so upset. But oh fuck, I had so many mosquito bites. But I think he should change camp. If he is serious about continuing to be a high level fighter, he needs to change his camp. Because there's no way your coaches saw that fight and believed that the fight was even close at all. You won one round maximum, and I thought you lost every round. It was in no way close. I don't understand why he. Well, maybe to his coaches, because of his coaches that he reacted like that at the end. But I feel like even in your own sense, that you should know that you were behind on the scorecards, right? But overall, it was a good performance for Khalil ish. I really hate to say it, but he might also be overrated right now. I fuck with him a lot. I am on the Khalil hype train. Might have to hop off though, because I really, as much of a good win this is for him, this is a former champion on his resume. This is not. He is not going to beat Ankalaev, Alex Pereira, or Yuri Prohaska like this. This is how he gets finished, right? A performance like that is exactly how he's gonna get finished. But yeah. So that was it for the main card. I mean, for the main event. Moving down to the co-main, Rafael Fiziev versus Ignacio Bahamondes. I wish I could say a lot about this one. I do like Ignacio Bahamondes. I do think he's a very interesting prospect. But I think this was too big of a jump in competition for him. I believed Fiziev was too much everywhere for him, and I was proved right. You know, he was in control a lot with the striking and the grappling. He was very composed in there. He didn't see much threat from Ignacio. He felt out the first round a little bit, but I think he got his reads and realized that he wasn't going to be in any immediate danger. Bahamondes was also falling to Fiziev's, I don't know, how do I say it? I don't want to say dominance of the fight, because he was more so opting into his best area, which is, or one of his better areas in jiu-jitsu. He was opting to just kind of play off his back a little bit more and hoping Fiziev would come into the guard and make a mistake and then pay for it. But that didn't happen. Fiziev getting a couple takedowns of Bahamondes also, just to show the levels between them. But I really hope Ignacio Bahamondes gets another opportunity at somebody else, maybe somebody just outside the rankings, or maybe the 15th rank. I don't know who that is at the moment. But this was a very good win for Fiziev. I think his ranking it's not equivalent to his skill level at lightweight. But this was a good win for Fiziev, and I'm happy he got it done in his hometown. Next up, Curtis Blaydes versus Rizvan Kuniev. Low key, guys, how bad is Curtis Blaydes? I know, and now he might have actually torn his MCL, but like when you're in the fight, how do you really think that? Like, how do you really know if that is what it is? right? You know, he could have torn some other muscle, and obviously it would have had some other type of impact. But I don't know. I don't know. I didn't like that he was trying to say that after the fight. I didn't really see any difference in his performance throughout the fight much. I know in the first round, it was pretty inactive. He got his takedown, kind of held him there, cage clinching a bit, etc., etc. And then in the second round, Kuniev was landing a lot of big shots. Curtis Blades was starting to wear a lot of the damage. Um, and then in the third round, he just barely squeaked it out. I thought it was a really close fight. I don't think this. I don't believe Blades should fight up. After this, I think he should show that he's even after this one that he deserves to be top five at heavyweight. But as for Kuniev, I was actually pretty surprised. He has some very solid takedown defense, some decent IQ for heavyweights, um, some solid striking. You know, I thought sometimes like looking at these heavyweights, you got to go by physique, and like a lot of the times the more obvious fat guy is pretty ass. But I expected Curtis Blades to run through him, and I thought he would when he was getting when he got that takedown in the first. But Kuniev put on a good performance for himself and making his debut versus a top five fighter. I think he can be a top 15 heavyweight, and I kind of hope to see more from him. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. And then moving on to what was it? The second card of the second fight of the main card. Tofik Musayev versus Miktabik Orolbai, or just Orolbai, since we all know him like that. I knew Orolbai was gonna win. I had seen Musayev's tape. I wasn't too impressed by it. Um, I'm not sure if I necessarily thought Orolbai's physicality would have played too much of a factor. I knew obviously Orolbai isn't a weak guy. I know he's very strong. But I didn't think. Hold on, I think I gotta close my door too. I didn't think that it would have been this much of a difference. I believe. I thought it probably would have been a closer fight. And I said in my prediction I thought it was gonna go all 3 rounds. Uh, shit, man. Shit, man. This was a really good performance from Orolbai. Even though this was a catch weight because Orolbai couldn't make the weight. And, maybe that plays some kind of part in it. But just the way that Orolbai manhandled Musayev in the first round was very impressive for himself. And, this really just pushes the agenda that the UFC really is the top promotion. And that Bellator might have been actually the worst promotion of talent in the UFC. Musayev was a former top 5 Bellator championship fighter, and he just lost to somebody that's barely top 25 lightweight, unranked, right? But good on Orolbai to get his submission win over Musayev, getting Kimura grip on Musayev, making him tap early in the first round. Well, not early in the first round, but in the first round. And then moving on. Actually, no, wait, what the fuck? All the main card was like, what, six fights? Damn. But moving on to Nazim Sadikov versus Nicholas Mota. This was a very fun fight to watch. This one was crazy. I thought Sadikov was about to get finished in the first round. And then he came back recovering. Excuse me. Recovering very well. In the barrage that he was getting from Mota in the first, he was able to defend very well. Rolling with some of the punches, dodging them. It was amazing. It was very cool to see. This should be fight of the night, or at least performance of the night. And also he was able to get some shots in at the last minute of the first round. And then in the second round, Sadikov does way better. hurting Moda a lot early on, doing some damage, cutting him in the center of his forehead, and then he just pressures Moda um, back up into the cage and just starts unloading and just beautiful, just a beautiful knockout with the right hook over Moda, just puts him right out. It was crazy, absolutely crazy. And I don't know where I race Sadikov in the unranked lightweights now. I think Orobai versus Sadikov could be kind of interesting to make next, maybe. And then from the opener of the card, Mohamed Naimov versus Bogdangrad. This one was a little confusing because I kind of felt Bogdangrad could have maybe won. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't know. But I thought Bogdangrad won one of the rounds. I think it was the first. Grad used a lot of controlling wrestling to adhere the threat of Naimov's dynamic striking and such. Um, what else? What else? He was also using his own. He was feinting a lot of his own spinning kicks or spinning attacks, just to kind of keep Naimov thinking a bit. And I think Bogdan Grad's a little bit underrated now. I know he won his last fight. He won his first fight in the UFC, but even then he was the underdog. He wasn't supposed to win, or wasn't expected to win. Obviously, he's supposed to win. And I think for this one he was kind of counted out. 2-1 odds. Not insanely disrespectful because obviously a lot of these quote unquote hometown fighters or these nearby foreign or like the nearby fighters get a lot of bias in the odds because they're fighting in their hometown. But I kind of like Bogdangrad, and he may not be. And actually, I was kind of wrong in my prediction. I thought he was somewhat unskilled and kind of just a brawler, but he kind of showed some decent IQ and some decent game planning. So, obviously, Naimov got the nod in terms of like from decision. Shout out to him. But I thought Bogdangrad could have won this fight. But maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me. And then headlining the prelims, we had Seokyeon Ko versus Oban Elliott. This one surprised me a lot because, like I said, guys, I didn't know much about anything about Seokyeon Ko. I only knew Oban Elliott, but Oban Elliott got absolutely dominated the entire fight. Ko using a bunch of beautiful judo trips, bag takes, bro. He's so fast. He's actually so fast. He's slippery, landing a lot of good shots. He kind of broke Elliott in there. Honestly, you can see just after the first round to the second round to the third round, the difference in Oban Elliott's approach, like his you could see the mentality shift going into the later rounds. He kind of knew it was lost cause. Ko putting on like a lot of ruthless ground and pound, cutting Elliott, making him drip blood. And Cole and Cole's striking is pretty good too. I don't want to be racist. I don't know if he comes from the from the Korean zombie camp, but if he does, they're making a lot of demons over there, and South Korea might have a UFC champion in the next couple of years. Like no cap, no cap. He has a very heavy karate style stance. He has a lot of. I keep saying a lot of. He has solid striking speed. Some accuracy to it. And I really liked the usage of his clinch game in here. I really did like seeing that. And yeah, honestly, this is a very good one for him. His making his debut, being a highly endorsed prospect like Oban Elliott, that's a big win in your debut. That probably shoots him up to maybe some type of just outside the ranking opportunity. Maybe he gets to fight Neil Magny or something, right? And hopefully, maybe if he gets opportunity, I think that's perfect. But then we can't. If he beats a Neil Magny nowadays, guys, that doesn't mean he can fight Ian Gary. I know we got Carlos Prates being Neil Magny and then fighting Ian Gary. That's not the same thing, right? Like I knew Ian Gary was gonna win that. I think everybody knew, or hopefully. But speaking of South Koreans, we move on to Jung Young Park versus Ismail Nardiev. Nardiev, Naordiev. I heard them say it differently, but this fight was kind of weird. Nardiev started really strong, landing long combos and landing a lot on Park early. Park was kind of just eating the shots, and then in the second half of the first round, Jung Young Park started to throw and land more. Um, and he was hitting Nardiev with actually a lot of big shots, dropping him twice or wobbling him once and dropping him the other, at the very end of the round. And then in the second, that's when stuff starts to get weird. Nardiev lands an illegal knee on Jung Young Park, and I don't think it was intentional. It really didn't seem intentional because he thought, just like I did watching the fight from with the different camera perspectives and stuff. I thought Jung Young Park's knee was off the ground, but apparently and I saw it after it was still touching the ground at the moment of the knee strike, and then Nardiev jumps around the cage, running, hops on the thing, celebrating, thinking he got the KO. And I thought, they take the whole 5 minute break. And in this 5 minute break, Jung Young Park's talking to the doctors and stuff, and he's saying, I can't see out of my eye, my eye is closed. And I'm thinking, bro, why would you say that? Now they're going to stop the fight for sure. But to my surprise, they continue to let him fight, which, that's actually really cool. And then it was very fair. I wanna precursor that. I think it was very fair for Nardiev to get 2 points taken off, because he did do an illegal strike, and because it did cause significant damage to Jung Young Park, right? So that's something that shouldn't have been judged against Park for in later rounds. Say if Nardiev kept landing and opening that cut up more, and then he would lose. Then Park might have lost to damage and stuff like that. So I thought it was very fair, but it was just crazy because it was my first time ever seeing somebody lose 2 points for that. And this card was very weird because there were so many fouls, right? There were so many fouls. This was just one of the fights, and I think that stopped here. I think a lot of the fouls stopped right here at this fight. But just to wrap it up, Jung Young Park clutched it out in the second and third round. He did very well in the second, landing big shots on Nardiev. And then in the third, Nardiev was just completely gassed out. Jung Young Park just taking him down, taking his back, and then just keeping him down, hitting ground and pound and stuff up until the bell. And then, yeah, that's it. Moving down to the women fights on the card, Daria Jelezhnikova, I hope I said that right, versus Melissa Mullins. I think there was also fouls in this one, or I think that was the arena one. Niakova started off the fight really strong. She landed a lot of really big hits in the first using her range. I'm also happy because I got this right, even though I didn't know too much about them. So now I'm kind of starting to feel like a guru, MMA guru, if you will. You know what I mean? But yeah, Jelezhnikova started off really strong, landing a lot of great shots from outside Mullins' range, marking him up early. But then she kind of starts to gas out, and I was starting to worry a little bit because I thought Mullins was starting to do well as Daria took the gas off the pedal, or took the foot off the gas. Um, and then I missed the second round because I was making food. That's my bad. But then she ended up clutching the third round. Daria ended up clutching the third round. I think Melissa did very well in the second round because after I came back in the third, Daria's face was kind of beat up. But Melissa was pretty inactive in that last round. She didn't do much at all. So um, yeah, that's really about it. It wasn't a bad fight. I thought it would have been a pretty shit fight, but it was okay. It was alright, I guess. And then we moved down to Arina Alexieva versus Claudia Segula. This one caught me off guard because I believed in the hype of Alexieva, not necessarily the hype, but I got caught up in the persona of Alexieva. I thought she probably would have been um, a lot stronger, a lot better, just because of her mannish appearance. It is what it is. I'm sorry I had to say that, but it is what it is. But Segula did very well. She actually impressed me. Um, like I said, I didn't know too much about her before coming into this either. And then I overrated Alexieva, even though I already knew that she was bad, right? And I think this is a time. This is one of those times where you might have to cut somebody after that performance like that. And I get that like this is their careers and stuff. And a lot of times I don't like to say like harsh things like that, but I think she should get cut and go back to the regional scenes because this was absolutely terrible. She has no defense, no IQ. In the first round and throughout the entire fight, actually, she kept getting with the exact same combo, 1-2 overhand, or one, or like a jab hook variation of a 1-2, etc., etc. And just overall got completely dominated in every facet of striking. Um, it was very obviously, or at least for me, 30-27 Segula. So shout out to Segula. Maybe she fights Daria next, or like Melissa or something. Actually, no, she fought Melissa already and lost. Now maybe she could fight Daria this time. Who knows? Who knows how that fight go? But then moving on to the flyweights, this was a great fight. This was an absolutely great fight. I loved this fight. Tagir Ulanbekov versus Azat Maxim. Maxim showed out. Maxim definitely showed out. Shout out to him for coming up on short notice. Uh, you know, Stuffed a lot of the takedowns of Tagir. And, this also pisses me off because as much as I didn't like Tagir coming into the fight, I have to admit he did look very, very good. And so did Maxim, right? This is one of those fights where guys that are really solid and are really good have to fight very early in their careers. Um, and I hope that Maxim could get another opportunity at maybe somebody just outside the rankings. Because he's 0-2 in the UFC, but you gotta think about his comp, or you gotta think about his competition. He's faced Charles Johnson, who's now ranked, right, and one of the most. He's actually one of the more known fighters in the UFC now, and Tagir Ulanbekov, who is being coached by Khabib and Islam, and who's also ranked in the UFC. So, hopefully, Maximum did very well. He went basically band for band with Tagir. I did see some people saying like Azza was robbed. I don't think he was robbed. I think, maybe so actually, because if Tagir got a point taken, and I think he should have for grabbing the fence because he's very notorious. I think now for it. He did it in his fight versus Cody Durden, and then now in this one it's like there's a pattern. There's a pattern, and it's very intentional that he's doing these things. Um, so yeah, like I was saying, I did low key root against the gear, and some of it it kind of flared up because they were talking about him in the preview of the fight, saying he was already like some type of title talks, like he wants to get into title contendership, or that after a win he could probably get considered, and it's like, bro, no, he's ranked 12. He hasn't fought anybody ranked. We don't need another Umar situation. And a lot of people at flyweight aren't really scared to fight each other. I think if you want Tagir to fight for a title, you put him against somebody that's in top 10. About time, right? The last person he fought in the top 10 was Temelia, and he lost. I think now he deserves an opportunity to fight back up again. But um yeah, I mean, like like, if we think about who's in the top 10 right now, who could he fight? Steve versus, no, I think Steven Alex Perez got signed. Um, I don't think he'd fight Manel Cop because of Abdel Aziz. Ali. Uh, he could fight maybe Tatsuro Taira. That'd be a great fight. Taira is still young. Tagir is kind of a prospect, but he's old. I think that's a very good fight for Tagir. And Tagir impressed me a lot. He showed a lot of great clinch work. He actually showed a lot of great striking too. He's very well rounded. He was hitting Maxim with a lot of hard shots that I think could have wobbled and maybe dropped a couple other flyweights that are smaller than Maxim, and that's a test to Maxim's chin and how well it is. And also Tagir, like a test to Tagir's chin, because they were both giving each other really hard shots, and it was really fun seeing, like, this was like MMA and Muay Thai wet dream, right? There was like every possible aspect of MMA you could think of in this fight. There was the dirty boxing and the clinch. There was the knees. There was the elbows. It was beautiful to see. It was beautiful violence. Um, was there anything else? Oh, um, actually, yeah, there really wasn't much more to say about this fight besides Maxim getting a suplex at the end of the third, but that didn't matter. That wouldn't matter much in terms of like style points than scoring points. I don't think it was enough to edge out the last round, um, which probably could have won him. Which probably could have won it for him. But I don't think it was a 30-27 decision. I think it was 29-28 max. That's what it should have been. Um, I, I believe I gave Maxim round 2 or round 1. This was like a very close fight. I just think Tagir just happened to edge it out, and just barely edged them out. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. And now moving on to the first fight of the card, Hamdi Abdelwahab versus Muhammad Usman. A lot of people were hating on this fight, and it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. Hamdi had a solid first round. He defended Usman's takedowns, and I gave him the I g- was oh, excuse me, I gave Hamdi the first. Um, but then Usman started to kick up a little bit. He started to rely on his hands a little better. He started letting his hands go more, and good for him, because they definitely looked solid. His hands looked solid. Um, Hamdi had no answers for the striking at all. Muhammad Usman was mixing it up very well. Shots to the body, shots to the head. I'm not sure if he did any leg kicks. Did he? Did he kick the leg at all? Is there any way for me to tell? He threw one leg kick. Okay, so maybe he didn't really throw any leg kicks, but as the fight went on, Usman stole round 2 and 3 from Hamdi, with the striking, of course. And in that third round, Hamdi just completely gassed out, just gave up. He was just a walking punching bag in that last round. Just open for Usman to just hit his belly and just to see it jiggle, hitting his head. You can see the thinning of Hamdi's hair because of how red his face was turning, right? So like, it was nice to see Usman win, because I wanted Usman to win, because I don't like Hamdi. Oh, and also there was another fight in this card. There was also another foul in this card with Usman poking the eyes of Hamdi. But I think I missed the Alexiva one. She got hit in the cup like twice or 3 times. And Segula still didn't get any points taken, but it wasn't gonna win her the fight anyway. But yeah, that's about it. I give this card probably about like a 6 out of 10. It wasn't great. All the prelims went to decision. We only had about 2 finishes in the card. It was underwhelming. I looked at a lot of these matchups. I thought a lot of these matchups would have been very interesting and had a lot of finishing potential in them. But it's not always gonna turn out like that. But regardless, I still tuned in. I still had some fun watching it. Um, and then yeah, that's about it. That's my reaction to UFC Baku. Like, comment, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Appreciate it.